From tiny cannons mopped as doorknockers to a railway gun so massive it could fire a shell the size of a tank. The Wehrmacht didn't just rely on panzers. They built the most diverse and terrifying artillery arsenal in history. Today we are ranking every major German artillery piece of World War II by caliber, starting small and ending with the largest cannon ever built by human hands. The Tank Hunter's Panzer Bear Cannon. Let's start with the weapons designed to stop the armored assault. First on the list is the 3.7 cm Bear Cannon in 36, the standard early war light anti-tank gun for infantry support. In 1939, this was state-of-the-art. It was light enough for 2 men to move and invisible in tall grass. But by 1941, against Soviet T-34s, it was useless. German crews bitterly renamed it the Harrison Inlo, there the Army door knocker, because its shells merely announced your presence to the enemy. Music. Tank, without letting you in. Next up, the necessary upgrade, the 5 cm Bear Cannon Panda Bear Cannon 38, a mid-war bridge weapon capable of piercing medium armor using tungsten core rounds. This was the answer to the crisis on the Eastern Front. It introduced a low-profile split trail carriage and a double, layered shield for crew protection. While it was an improvement, it still struggled to kill heavy tanks from the front, forcing crews to rely on dangerous flank shots. Moving to the true heavy hitter, we have the 7.5 cm Panzer on 40, the backbone of German anti-tank defense, capable of destroying almost any Allied vehicle. This is the iconic German anti-tank gun. If you see footage of a German gun crew in 1944, it's likely this. It traded mobility for lethality. It could kill a Sherman from 1000 m. But it was so heavy that if the crew didn't have a tractor during a retreat, they often had to spike the gun and leave it behind. Infantry and Phi Elder, the guns that supported the troops in the trenches. Let's shift to infantry support with the 7.5 cm Luz Infantry Gish 18, a portable mountain and infantry gun used to clear machine gun nests. This little gun was unique. It used a shotgun-style breech mechanism where the barrel tipped up to load. It was reliable and ubiquitous, serving in every German infantry battalion from the invasion of Poland to the fall of Berlin. Next, we have the workhorse of the division, the 10.5 cm Light 18. The primary field howitzer, providing indirect fire support for frontline troops. Equivalent to the American 105 mm, this gun did the heavy lifting of the war. It was robust and accurate, but like many German designs, it was over-engineered and heavy. On the Russian steppe, horse teams frequently collapsed trying to drag this steel beast through the mud. Now look at this brute. The 15 cm Schwarzenfontaine Geese 33, the largest caliber infantry gun ever fielded by any nation in World War II. The Germans decided to put a massive heavy artillery barrel on a tiny infantry carriage. The result was devastating firepower for infantry commanders capable of leveling a house with one shot. The downside, the recoil was so violent it often damaged its own wheels. Moving to the long-range heavyweights, we have the 15 cm Jiva Feldhardt 18, a core-level heavy howitzer nicknamed Immergrün or Evergreen. This was the first German artillery to use rocket-assisted shells to extend range. It was a potent weapon but a logistical nightmare. It was so heavy that for transport the barrel often had to be dismantled and carried on a separate trailer, delaying setup time significantly. The Flak Killer's Flugabwehr Kanon and designed for planes, but often used against men and tanks. Let's look at the Sky Clearers. Starting with the 2 cm Flak 30 and 38, a rapid-fire autocannon used against low-flying aircraft and infantry. This was the most produced German artillery piece of the war. While designed for planes, it was terrifyingly effective against infantry. The 38 version doubled the fire rate to 420 rounds per minute, earning a reputation as a chaotic suppressive weapon. Scaling up, we find the 3.7 cm Flak 18, 36, and 37. A medium-caliber anti-air gun that bridged the gap between the light 20 mm and heavy 88 mm. The soldiers called this the clockwork gun because of its complex internal mechanics. It packed enough punch to tear a wing off a heavy bomber with a single hit, something the 20 mm couldn't do consistently. And here is the legend. the 8.8 centimeters Flak 1836 and 37, a high-velocity anti-aircraft gun. That became the most feared tank destroyer of the war. Known simply as the 88, originally an AA gun, General Rommel realized its high velocity could slice through any tank armor in existence. It became a dual-purpose terror. If you heard the crack of the 88, you were already alive because the shell traveled faster than the speed of sound. But the 88 had a bigger brother, the 12.8 centimeters Flak 40, a massive static-heavy flak gun used primarily on the concrete flak towers protecting Berlin. This was the heavy guardian of the cities, usually mounted in pairs on massive, concrete towers. The flak swelling. These guns were radar-guided and could hurl a shell over 40,000 feet into the air to shred Allied bomber formations. The Screaming Mayman's Nebular, psychological warfare, and rocket artillery. Now we trade precision, for terror. This is the 15 centimeters WWII 41, a 6-barreled rocket launcher designed to saturate areas with high explosives. Allied troops called it the Screaming Mimi. Due to the horrific howling sound the rockets made, it could dump its entire payload in 10 seconds. The trade-off was the smoke trail it pointed directly to the launch site, inviting immediate counter-battery fire. Next up is the heavier variant, the 21 centimeters 42. A larger 5-barrel launcher designed to fire a heavier payload with a slightly different flight profile. The Germans tweaked the design to fire a massive 21 centimeters rocket. Instead of just high explosive, these rockets were shaped aerodynamically to improve range and stability. But they retained the signature psychological terror of their predecessor, the JS, heavy and siege artillery. The monsters that broke the ground they stood on. Entering the heavyweight class, we have the 17 centimeters Caron 18, a long-range core-level gun designed for counter-batter fire. This gun was all about reach. It could strike targets nearly 30 kilometers away, outranging almost Allied artillery. However, it was so massive that it took a crew of 10 man-hours to dig it into position. Next is the engineering marvel, the 21 centimeters Mercer 18, a heavy howitzer featuring an innovative, dual recoil system to maintain stability. This gun was unique because the barrel recoiled, and then the top carriage recoiled over the chassis. This double absorption meant the gun hardly moved when firing, allowing for incredibly precise follow-up shots for a weapon of this size. Now the weapons get absurd. This is the 60 centimeters Karl Gedak, a self-propelled siege mortar built to crack the Maginino Line and Sevastopol. Named after General Karl Becker, only 7 existed. It fired a 2-tonon shell designed to penetrate 2.5 m of concrete. It wasn't a tank. It was a slow-moving siege tower that required a dedicated crane just to load a single shell. And finally, the largest weapon, ever used in the history of warfare, the 80 centimeters Gustav, a railway gun of unprecedented scale designed to destroy the strongest fortifications on Earth. The stats are terrifying. A 400-ton barrel, a 1,350-ton total weight. It fired a 7-ton shell the weight of a fully loaded school bus over 47 kilometers at the siege of Sevastopol. It fired just 48 rounds, but one of them pierced 30 m of seabed and bedrock to destroy an ammunition magazine buried beneath the ocean. It was the ultimate example of German engineering. Technically magnificent, but strategically useless. From the 37mm Dornacher to the 800mm Gustav, this list represents more than just a collection of guns. It mirrors the very trajectory of the Third Reich itself. They began the war with weapons that was small, mobile, and tactically brilliant. But as the tide turned, desperation drove them toward the gigantic, the complex, and the immovable. The Gustav and the Karl Gerets were marvels of engineering, yes, but they were dinosaurs, relics of a siege warfare mindset that had no place in a war of movement and air power. While the Allies focused on mass production and reliability, German engineers chased the Wunderwaffe, building steel monsters that were as fragile as they were terrifying. So, looking back at this arsenal, I have a question for you. If you were a commander in 1944, would you rather have a single battery of 21 centimeters Neuroers or one massive railway gun? Which weapon on this list do you think was the most effective pound for pound in actual combat? Was it the reliable PAK-40 or the terrifying Flak 88? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy this deep dive into German steel, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We have a lot more heavy metal to cover, including the secret prototypes that never made it off the drawing board. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next.